Good morning, mic check. Is this thing on? All right, thank you, Z. I feel like those mic check emotes came out so good. All of the word ones. No sound, new scene or whatever, the wrong scene. You look great ones. Yeah, those look awesome. Or great, as one might say. Fred the Mailman subbing for 41 months. I was just talking to Fred yesterday about the NFL schedule. I believe we are going to be in Vegas at the same time.
Well, that's awesome.
Did the Seahawks schedule work in Carla Marie's favor this year?
It could have been worse. So, you know what? We're just going with it.
Oh, I forgot we had the Bless You one, too. That one came out really good.
But I forgot it's Lakers. Yeah, I'll definitely have to miss one game. Possibly a second. Already planning who's coming out here for what game. My niece and her husband are going to come out for the Dolphins game, which will be exciting.
That's cool.
Until my dad's like, I would like to come to the Dolphins game, then I'm in trouble.
Nara, thank you very much for that sub, 36 months.
Oh, just a quick personal note, Nara. My prescriptions were sent to the Florida pharmacy, so if you're looking for them, don't.
Oh, level 5 of the hype train complete. Thank you very much, everybody.
I also was going to stop by and say hi the other day, Fred Meyer, but you guys were on your lunch.
Jordan, thank you very much for that sub, 44 months.
My abs hurt.
What the hell is Outlook opening? Get out of here, Outlook. No one likes you. Bring nothing but bad news.
That's true.
Wait a second. On screen, it said level 5 was complete, but on here, it says level 3. Confused. Tones, did you finish building the cat canopy for Max? I sure did.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good morning and welcome to the Carla Marie and Anthony Show. My name is Anthony.
I'm Carla Marie.
Did you hear that? Yeah, I think it just
stopped.
came through our headphones very quickly. The countdown sound started again, so sorry about that. Good morning. Welcome to the Carla Marie and Anthony Show. My name is Anthony.
I'm Carla Marie.
Shout outs to everyone who subscribed or gifted bits or gifted subs this morning because it looks like we're in level 3 of the hype train. But today is going to be a weirder show. It's going to be most likely a much shorter show than normal.
And if you need to tune out for any reason at any point, we understand.
Anthony, do you get preseason tickets for the Raiders? I do. I do. If you want them, hit me up. So Tuesday we finished the show, and within, 5 minutes of the show being over, I got what I can only describe as probably one of the worst phone calls of my life. And like I said, a couple minutes after the show on Tuesday, Carla Marie and I found out that my friend Steve, our friend Steve, after he was poached by Carla Marie, something happened overnight. We don't know exactly what yet. Something happened overnight where he was unresponsive at some point in the early morning hours. And his wife, I should say, not they, his wife called 911. They rushed him to the hospital. And unfortunately, and it still doesn't feel real because I've gotten to text him a handful of times already. But unfortunately, Steve did not make it. And if you're wondering who our friend Steve is, you probably know the brand that he started, which is the Roosevelts, which we've talked about a lot. And we're both wearing Roosevelt shirts today. I think a lot of people in the Roosevelt community are wearing Roosevelt shirts today. And it's been hard to say the least. We've both been in like zombie mode since we found out.
You know, when you have a dream and someone dies, and then you wake up and you're like, oh my God, it wasn't real.
Yeah.
I keep thinking that's going to happen. But it's that very real feeling of when you're dreaming and bad things are happening, and you're like, I just got to wake up. I just got to wake up.
Yeah.
And every morning, the 2 mornings I've woken up since, it hits you worse.
Yeah. Yeah, it hasn't gotten easier yet. And I don't know if it will get easier. I know people say it doesn't necessarily get easier. You just get stronger, I think is
used to it.
The phrase that people use. And if any of you have been able to meet Steve, I know some people have, yeah. It's funny because the Roosevelts have a group called the Roosevelt Insiders. Mm-hmm. And Steve did a great job of setting up events around the country, right? From San Diego to Seattle to Chicago to Florida, everywhere in between, New York, New Jersey.
Even Seattle meetups.
Yeah. So a lot of people in that community have been able to at least meet Steve for 5 minutes, mm-hmm. right? Like you have a shot with the guy at a bar and that's your interaction with him. And I don't think I've ever seen this before, but I'm telling thousands of people got to meet this guy and interact with him. And the sentiment is always the exact same thing. No one has any other things to say about Steve other than he lit up a room.
Mm-hmm. More than that.
You know, he was the reason people were having a good time.
Always.
And one of the reasons we wanted to talk about it today, other than selfishly just needing to, is we know that between the brand and the person, Steve has probably touched a lot of people in this community as well.
Sam,
I mean, he's been on what?
Sam is FaceTiming me.
Okay.
I don't know if she's watching.
Oh, I don't know. Do you want to pick up?
Okay, hold on. She's probably just checking in. Samantha? Did you butt dial me? She must have butt dialed me.
She butt faced you? So, and the other part of Steve and this community is Steve not only was on the My Day Friday podcast a handful of times.
He was on Twitch.
We talked about him. Was he on Twitch?
Well, we went live from Roosevelt's office.
Yeah.
Twice. So we put him on.
We must have at some point. Again, he's part of the fabric of this community.
Yeah, for sure.
And with how involved he was in our lives, it would be impossible for him not to.
I know. Oh, he called in for your birthday because I was going through. I feel like it's crazy that one of your first things to do is like, oh my God, well, what was the last thing we said to each other? And I went all the way back, and it was your birthday. Not even anything crazy. I just remember getting him to call in, and I want to go back and listen to that. But like, there were so many just little texts back and forth, and he was one of the people that never responded to anyone.
Yeah, have like 7 texts with him. But it's funny, Steve.
We just mentioned him last week when I was talking about the electronic leash, and someone in here I think even said, "Oh, who you friend poached?" And to like what Steve said is you don't have to respond to people all the time, but also he was very present when he was with all of us. Yeah. So I think there's a lot to learn there from him of like always stay in touch, but
it's Steve, I think for the people that knew him, not even best, the people that just knew him well, he was what so many people wanted to be. And I say that because you never had a bad time with Steve. You never felt bad about yourself with Steve. You never felt like you weren't doing enough with Steve.
Steve never had a bad time.
And the reason I bring that up is I think when someone like that leaves the world, and I was thinking about it yesterday, it was never going to be enough, right? Like if Steve lived to be 300 years old, the world still wouldn't have had enough time with him. 40 seems cruel.
39. Not even.
No, it's 40. I figured it out yesterday.
We're all like, wait.
But losing someone like Steve, it makes you realize that you have to do better to fill the hole that he leaves behind, right? I think the best example, have you ever watched Moneyball? So Moneyball is the Brad Pitt movie about the Oakland A's after they lost Jason Giambi and they tried to figure out like how to replace a superstar. And I don't know if it was Jonah Hill's character or Brad Pitt's character, but one of them basically says like, you're never going to fill Jason Giambi's role. What you can do is find a lot of people that do a lot of things that add up to fill that role. And I feel like that's where we all are now, the people that knew Steve, is we all have to chip in a little bit because it's impossible to fill those shoes. But if we all try to bring a little more light into every room, right? Try to bring a little more fun into the world. Try to
take the trip.
Build a community, you know? I mean, a lot of people build brands to sell products, which is what Steve did a really good job of, but he did it because he wanted to build a community. He wanted people to feel better about themselves through his brand, through his community, through his products.
It is actually a miracle that company made any money, because if you met Steve on the street, he'd be like, just like this, always, with a massive phone. I feel like it always had a battery pack, too. He'd be like, what's your address? I'll send you one. And would just, like, what do you got? Oh, here, I'll just add some more. What do you want, a little hat? I'll send you a beanie. How's a beanie? And like,
yeah, they succeeded despite that. And because of that, at the same time.
I mean, I turned to him a lot when it came to launching You Look Great stuff. He helped, and he would always be like, I got ideas, do this, or you guys should try this. Like, and he was the biggest supporter of, like, everywhere he went, he would wear You Look Great beanies, send me photos. His wife, Becca, everywhere she goes, You Look Great stuff.
My brother, Justin, because Justin and Steve were both with us at one of the adult summer camps, and Justin said Steve offered so much stuff at the adult summer camp he had to be stopped. But that was Steve, and that's the coolest thing about Steve, and I hope it's something that we all remember is Steve, when he succeeded, brought everyone with him.
Yeah, and
when you succeeded, Steve he was somehow happier than you were.
Yeah.
It was so weird. And then when something went wrong, he was the first person that was there. Jill asked a good question. Was he sick? I'm in shock. So the craziest thing is no one really knows. Like, we're still figuring it out. Steve had weird allergies and maybe could have had, and like was very allergic. Not like Carla Marie where she's allergic to everything, but she's going to be okay. So it could have been that. It could have been, and I don't want to speculate. It could have been literally anything. What we do know is it was a quote unquote natural cause. Thankfully, and as you could probably tell by describing Steve, never really had any like vices other than just enjoying life.
Or Benadryl.
Yeah. But yeah, we don't know yet. So we'll find out. We're still waiting to find out about memorial services, funerals, stuff like that.
We're gonna go back to Jersey before going to Florida.
With that said, we were never gonna have a show next Friday anyway, because that would have been or next Thursday, because that would have been the day of Carla Marie's, or is going to be the day of Carla Marie's surgery. We're now up in the air about Monday and Tuesday, because we just don't know what the services and travel and all of that will be like. We were supposed to fly on Tuesday
to Florida,
directly from here to Florida. We're now going to have to make the worst pit stop that I could possibly imagine to New Jersey.
We'll most likely still do the morning show podcast.
Yes.
I know it's actually almost easier to do that in this kind of situation, because we can just do it when we have the time versus having to be somewhere. And I know everyone keeps saying, don't worry about the show, but this helps us.
It does. It absolutely does. I mean, if it wasn't for doing the morning show podcast, which, by the way, on Wednesday's show, there were a ton of mistakes. Not a ton. There were a handful of mistakes, and I was in full zombie mode.
Me too. And
I've been and really outside of working, I've just been in zombie mode.
And then between crying and my nose just triggered of sneezing nonstop and blowing my nose before it, so I must have sounded I don't know.
But it does help us break the monotony, get us working and focused on something else. So we're going to do our best to make sure we don't miss episodes of the morning show podcast. That's also where we all, like, business-wise, we have our clients and stuff that are involved there. That's where we make some of our money.
I will say, anyone I've reached out to where I was supposed to do something work-wise for, and I've just told them what happened, just the compassion. I know that sounds crazy, but I just keep, and I know this is crazy to bring up, but I just keep thinking about, like, if we were on the radio right now, what would be expected of us to just either push through or not travel or whatever. And I'm just like, I would never let that happen again. No.
Even if we were back with a radio company in some capacity, we wouldn't allow that anymore. It's crazy because I have this wild summer lined up, right? I've got 3 bachelor parties. I've got a trip to Japan. I've got a bunch of stuff locally. And the hard thing to wrap my head around is when the president of fun in your life goes away. What do you do? And the crazy part is Steve wasn't even part of any of those plans. Like, that's the wildest part is he wasn't. I mean, for my brother's bachelor party in San Diego, he would have been in the city, and I may have seen him for one night, but he wasn't part of that plan, right? That's a whole different thing. And I'm still staring down this summer, and I know when it happens, I'm going to enjoy it. And I know that Steve, the last thing Steve would want for anyone in the world is to skip out on a trip or any opportunity at fun.
Because you're talking about the guy, we talked about this yesterday. So Steve's mom was a flight attendant.
Oh, yeah.
So she's retired now, but he had standby status on United, so he could just take a flight anywhere. And this is my favorite Steve story when I would try to explain to people, this is who my friend Steve is. I think it was 2015. He flew standby to Dubai just to go see the fucking building. Yeah. And then came home the same day.
He flew 17 hours because he saw online at some point that the 2 tallest buildings in the world were in Dubai. And he said, I feel like going to see those.
By himself.
And he just left. And when I say he just left, I mean...
No one knew he went.
He went down a rabbit hole one night looking up tall buildings and whatnot. And the next morning, I believe, or maybe the next day, he was on a flight.
Like, if I could just have a fraction of that in my life, that'd be great. Claire said to your brother, Justin, Anthony, who's in the chat, I remember when Michael and Justin, your brothers, flew to Seattle to surprise Anthony for his birthday in 2019, and so did Steve. Yeah. And everyone gave you, Anthony, such a hard time because you were more happy to see Steve than your brothers. And Justin said, I would, and you know what's funny, we all agreed that Anthony was right to be more hyped for Steve.
It's great. We have... And the weird thing about Steve, too, not weird, but he was also the king of group chats. Back when, like, GroupMe was a thing, he would start them, and then when Instagram started letting you do group chats, he would make a group chat for everything. Every trip you went on,
but
was a
never
group chat.
text group chat.
No,
never.
And as an Android person, because he was also an Android person, that's why he did it.
Only negative thing.
He never wanted to be blue bubble bullied. But we now have 2 group chats that I am in, if not every day, every other day. Mm-hmm. It's one that's filled with people who used to live in our apartment building because, like, people kind of rotated in and out. Yeah. And then there's a Seton Hall group chat. And he started both of them. I talk to people on a daily basis that I never would have even known if it wasn't for those group chats. And everyone in those chats has had kind of the same feeling because we've all been lucky enough to know Steve for a very long time. If you took the top 100 moments in our lives over the past 20 years, for all of us, think about it, this is like 30, 40 people we're talking about. All of us across the board would say Steve was part of 90% of them.
Oh my God, the most fun we had was their wedding weekend because we were all there.
Yeah.
Actually, and Steve was probably like, I want to hang out with my friends, but I'm too busy getting married.
Yeah.
Your brother Justin said Steve was the perfect golden retriever boy.
Yeah.
That's Steve.
Yeah.
How long how old were you when you met Steve?
I mean, I met him first in college, so 18, 19, 20 years old, something around there. We didn't know each other well in college, though. It wasn't until a couple of years after, so I'd say I probably became good friends with Steve in like 2010 or whenever I moved into the Manila apartment building. And here's one of my favorite things about Steve. Steve could make you feel like you were the most important person in the world and also simultaneously forget your name. And there are 2 moments.
What's up, bro?
That go.
Always.
They follow the same trajectory with Steve. When I was first thinking about moving into my Jersey City apartment, Steve lived in the apartment next door. He was the Kramer to our.
I was gonna say it's like Friends.
Yeah, he was the Kramer to our apartment. He's the one that just walk in with a wild idea. Hey guys, I'm going to Dubai. Like that was him. He was Kramer.
And throw his socks somewhere.
Yeah. So I knew of Steve. We had met once or twice, but I was sitting on the couch in my what would be my new apartment. And Steve walks in and goes, "Oh, hey man, what's up? I'm Steve." I said, "Oh, hi, Steve. I'm Anthony. We went to Seton Hall as well." "Oh, cool, bro." Went about his day.
Cool.
A couple days later, I was back in that same apartment, sitting on the same spot on the couch. Steve walked in the same exact way. This Kramer thing. "Oh, what's up, man? I'm Steve. What's your name?" I said, "Okay, I'm going to give this guy a second." So, "Hey, Steve, I'm Anthony. I also went to Seton Hall."
Met you yesterday.
I was here the other day. "Oh, yeah. What's up, bro? Good to see you again. Couple days later, as I was finalizing moving into this apartment, same exact thing happened. Steve walked in like Kramer, looked at me, and in my head I thought, no fucking way. There's no way. And he goes, "What's up, man? I'm Steve. What's your name?" And I looked at him and I said, "Steve, fuck you. I've been here 3 days this week. You're going to remember my name." He goes, "Oh, yeah. Okay, cool. Are you moving in?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Okay, I'll remember your name now." And
that is, yep. Golden retriever.
Absolutely. And
he knows he likes you. He just doesn't know
exactly.
your name.
And then when he first asked me to be a groomsman in his wedding, I think the first time he asked me was at our friend T's bachelor party. We were in the pool.
Which we talked about this because I said that is illegal.
Why?
Because you would never poach someone else's bachelorette party to ask.
Yeah.
But then we were like, oh, you wouldn't get to see each other.
Exactly. So I'm at John's bachelor party and we're in the pool and Steve looks up and we're just having a beer and he goes, "Hey man, it's probably like a weird time, but you know, I'd love for you to be in my wedding party." And I said, "Steve, absolutely. Like, I'm honored." And then we were traveling again. It was his bachelor party this time because his bachelor party was only a couple months after. And we're all drinking again.
All 800 of you.
Yeah, that was 2 houses, about 40 or 27 people. He comes up to me again in the pool. Says, "Hey man, I haven't had a chance to talk to you yet, but I'd love if you were in."
Did Steve have dementia?
my bachelor party, and I said, or my wedding party. I said, "Steve," and I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, we're drinking. I'm just gonna say yes." And then he sent me a text a couple of weeks later and said, hey, man, I haven't got a chance.
No, he didn't.
Just to ask you yet. Would you like to be in my wedding party? I'd love to have you there. You mean a lot to me. And I said, Steve, are you fucking with me now?
And that was the thing. Like, you didn't know if he was fucking with you or what.
Yeah. Oh, man.
To that point of Steve's...
Hold on. Angela said, I love his sense of humor. I don't think he was joking. That's just who he was as a person.
He was a golden retriever goldfish.
Yeah.
When Steve told Sam and I, you went on your trip with your cousin Rudy to go watch college football games.
Yes.
I went back to Jersey for Christmas sooner, so I went out with all of your friends and Sam. And it was actually, honestly, one of the most fun nights. And that was a night Steve told Sam and I that he was going to propose to Becca.
Yeah.
Showed us the ring, and he was like, I just decided one day I'm doing this, and I immediately ordered it online.
Yeah.
Steve, what? Like, Anthony's dad's a jeweler. Like, he's like, nope, I got to do it. I'm doing it now. I'm doing it Christmas Eve. And we were like, okay. And then he says to me, I want you in my bridal party as, like, one of my groomsmen. And I was like, oh, my God, Steve, stop. That's amazing. Whatever. But then he never asked me, like, officially. And I was not going to bring it up because I thought maybe Becca, as much as Becca is one of my closest friends, maybe she was like, no, we're not. You're not having a girl. I don't know.
Or maybe the numbers didn't work out.
Right. I was like, I'm not stepping on toes. And that's it. So at least I have the fact. I was at least asked once. I guess you have to be asked 3 times for it to be official.
Yeah, it's not real unless it's the 3rd time. Jolly Russian Buddhist. Wait, did Steve really have this level of ADHD? Yeah. But here's the one thing.
High functioning, though. Very high functioning.
And I think the wedding ring anecdote really exemplifies like what we should all take from this guy's life is do the thing. Just do it. If it feels good, if you want to take the trip, if you want to start the business, if you want to ask that person to marry you, whatever it is.
I'm going to run out of money living like Steve.
Do it. Because if it's genuine and you love it and you believe in it, you should do it.
I think the craziest thing is I keep going from like cracking up to just crying, and you feel like a fucking crazy person. Man,
I'm in either 3 states. I'm in zombie state, laughing and smiling, thinking about all the moments, and then just despair and crying. I last night I was by myself on the couch yesterday, just thinking about some stuff, writing some stuff down, and I was a mess.
Yeah, that's what triggered me. Is I wrote out everything that I would say in a post, and it's definitely not going to fit in one post. But that sent me, and then I started cracking up because I remember I kept saying to Anthony, "What did Steve steal? He stole something once, and I can't remember what it was." And then it hit me. We were at the Coachella after party, Electric Daisy. What is it? The electric thing?
Neon Carnival.
Different festival.
Yeah.
And Kid Ink. There was
some rapper that had a table. I can't remember who it was. But
all I know is Steve comes walking up to us like this, whatever bottle of something it was, and he like pulls it out of his pants and he goes, "I just stole this from Kid Ink's table," and we're like, "We're gonna get murdered, Steve!" And he just
it may not have been Kid Ink, but it was some rapper of that level.
Yeah.
But Steve had a way to bring out the best of every situation, to put you in the best situation possible. And I was talking to one of my friends, Chris, yesterday, and I said, I am super fortunate that at some point in time, my group of friends, all of the guys, just decided it was okay to say, I love you to your bros.
You guys are the best with that, to be honest.
So if you have a Steve in your life,
or anyone,
tell them you love them. Say it every time. Say it when you hang up the phone. Say it when you say hello. Say it when you say goodbye. Because even though it hurts a little less knowing how you all really felt.
It's true. I said that to someone. It's like, oh, actually, it was Becca. His wife. Every time she'll respond to some text, and every time she responds, she's like, he loved you guys so much. And I said, I never once doubted that, and I never will. Like, I know. I mean, we said it. We all said it. And he would also, like, I spent more birthdays with that guy in the last 8 years than, I mean, I spent no birthdays with my family in the last 8 years. He was out here for half of them or more. I mean, he would surprise me for them. Yeah. He was just here this year, 2 months ago.
Yeah. And he made that trip for Carla Marie's birthday. I mean, the Roosevelts were going to be here at Emerald City Comic Con.
He wasn't going to come.
But if Steve had to go to every single Comic Con the Roosevelts were at, he would have no time for his own life. But he came to this one specifically for us and for Carla Marie's birthday.
That trip almost didn't happen because there was no shock, communication confusion over our dates, and we realized it lined up, and we had the best night. You guys sang karaoke together. Him and Becca did. He and I got to sing our song September together. There's no video footage apparently, but I'm so happy that night happened. And I remember telling him after, I was like, this seriously was the best night. Yeah. And then the next day we hung out with him and Becca. They did a Roosevelt's meetup, and I remember being so hungover, and I was like, I don't know if I can do this. And you were like, come on, we're going to go. And I would be bashing my head against the wall right now if I didn't. Like, his last Instagram post is that night.
Yeah. You're in it. And like I said before, and I want to get to your comment real quick. We don't have anything set up right now, but Wendy said, I'd love to call in and read you something that my daughter wrote after we lost my grandmother earlier this year, which we still read at times, still grieving. When we come back in this studio, because when we're traveling, it's harder to put calls on. When we come back, I would love to hear that, because I'm sure we're going to have other things that we want to talk about after we travel and go through all of the events that you have to go through with this. But kind of like what I said earlier about start the business, buy the ring, do the thing, whatever. Take the picture.
Yeah.
Right? Take the picture. Make the trip.
We often give people crap about that, but man, he was the king of taking photos. It's
and then starting photo albums on Google and sharing them with everyone. He
was the first person to teach me about Google albums because we couldn't do shared iPhone albums.
See how much easier it is being an Android person?
It's a shock that Steve is ever in any photo. It's a shock that I have so many photos of him, because it would always be him going, all right, everybody line up. Come on, you get in, you get down, you get down. And we'd be like, everyone would just be yelling, Steve, get in the picture. He'd be like, I'm going to take one and I'm going to give it to someone else, and maybe I'll just Photoshop myself in. And he would do that. I have a video of him Photoshopping you into something because you weren't there. And that was just like, that was how he was. Just, he wanted to have proof of all of us being together.
Yeah. Felipe, when we're back, you can also call in because I'd love to hear that as well. And Maria in Omaha said, how lucky you are to know and love each other.
Our friend Sean posted today, your friend, I guess, but he's my friend too.
Okay.
He posted a photo of him and Steve, and he had said something. You could say it won't be the same without him, but it makes more sense to say we will never be the same because of him. Yeah. He was that good. And going back to you talking about how supportive he was, like, he was so proud of everyone. Yeah. One of the texts that I found was my first game day with the Seahawks. He texted me and just said, "Today's the big day. Are you pumped? I'm a big Seahawks guy now." And I said,
the running joke with Steve, by the way, in our group chat is he has a new favorite NFL team every season.
And he's also just a big whatever guy.
Yeah.
And then he had texted me on October 24th. It was a game. Something happened. I don't have the photo here. And he just said, LFG, let's fucking go. And he was watching one of the Seahawks games and then just texted me. I mean, and that was all the way back in 2022. All the way back. But yeah, I mean.
But we're gonna wrap up the show here in a second. Thank you for letting us. What's up?
Well, when he was out here for my birthday, him and Becca were staying at the Olympic Fairmont Hotel. And I don't know why he was like, They had
they had postcards in the front. Yeah, free postcards. And he was so shocked that all you have to do is fill it out and they would handle everything. He was just
like, ooh, postcards. And the front desk person was like, actually, we'll mail them for free if you want to send them to like anywhere in the U.S. And he was like, okay. And he takes them. We go sit at like the bar there and he goes, we're going to write postcards to each other's parents.
Yeah.
And we're going to send them. And we're like, okay, sure, Steve. And we wouldn't let each other see what we wrote. You wrote it for his mom. He wrote for both of our parents, and that's, I think, all we did. We just did the 3.
Maybe,
because I didn't write any. And however long later, my mom gets it in the mail, and she's like, this is so amazing, so proud of you. Tell them thank you so much, love you. And I have what he wrote to my mom.
I've read my card every day so far.
Well, he addressed it to Freddie Marie originally, like just mailed it to my dad, and then wrote, Freddie and Anna, it's Steve from Roosevelt's. I'm in Seattle for Carla Marie's daughter.
For your daughter?
But I think he was trying to say birthday, your daughter's birthday. I don't know. I'm in Seattle for Carla Marie's daughter. You did a heck of a job with her. She's an amazing person. Happy to be out here for her birthday, Steve. It's just the most bizarre thing that he decided to do that 2 months ago.
I know. It's crazy. Tacoma Swifty said, my dad's funeral's in a few hours, and I plan to do the same at Father's Day. I hope to see just as many. I had no idea that happened, Tacoma Swifty, and I'm sorry to hear that.
What?
Wishing you the best, obviously.
Fuck.
And listen, no matter who you lose, it's never easy, right? You always wish you had an extra day, at least, with a person. It doesn't matter if they're 110 years old. You just wish you had a little more time. But the lesson there is enjoy the time that you do have.
I kept meaning to text Steve over the weekend. Don't regret that I didn't, because I know he wouldn't have responded. So that's besides the point. Because I did text him something, and he didn't respond on, like, Friday. But I watched over the weekend all of Smartless on HBO.
Oh, yeah.
They're like, Smartless is the podcast with Jason Bateman, Will Arnett, and Sean Hayes. And they did a in-person tour. And the documentary, the whatever it is hilarious. Mm-hmm. And I'm watching it, and I'm like, God, Will Arnett reminds me so much of Steve.
Yeah. Like,
his mannerisms and the way he just, like, fucks with them, but just the way he does things. And I was like, Anthony, please come watch this. Like, look at this. And you were like, yeah.
Yeah, within the first, 5 minutes, I agreed.
It's very much that, like, it's going to mess around and be silly. And I can't wait to go back and watch it. And now that I, and just, see him in him, I guess, a bit.
I want to get out of here before the ads start playing in a second. What I will say is, as sad as I have been, as bad as it's going to hurt when I'm back in New Jersey, when it becomes really real, because this is probably the saddest I've ever been. I also know, and first off, thank you for letting us do this. I also know that I'm one of the luckiest people in the history of the world because I got to call Steve my friend. Whew.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's time for us to get out of here. We'll keep you posted in Discord as to whether or not we're going to have shows on Monday and Tuesday. And if anything seems strange or weird or we missed something, you guys know why. Appreciate you. Thank you for being our family. Thank you for letting us do this today. And we'll see you when we see you.
Love you guys.
Love you.